Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Katafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Mingus Union swim coach Gretchen Wesbrock. She'll break down how she adjusts her training and preparation throughout the season and speak about the swimming community in Northern Arizona. We'll then be joined by Mingus Union Athletic Director Yancey DeVore. He'll give us an update on the football field renovations and discuss the new coaching hires for the fall sports season. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Coconino High School cross-country coach Shannon Taylor. She'll talk about the start of the season and coaching the program she once participated in. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I am joined now by Coconino High School cross-country coach Shannon Taylor. Coach Taylor, welcome on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I do want to pass off first and foremost a congratulations on finishing the 2020 season. I know that COVID was an absolute nightmare, but we're all happy to be moved away from it. The 2021 season is now officially underway. I can say that now. We are doing sports, and it's awesome. The Panthers last season, the girls team finished in second place at state last year. Coach, you got an opportunity to see your team this year compete in two meets, one of which happened at the end of August. That was the Hopi Cross Country Invite. The Panthers, I believe, finished in second, but I want to ask you, how did you think your team did in that meet to start off the year?
We actually won the meet for the girls' side.
Okay, cool.
And then the boys came in third. But I think they did really well. I like to do Hopi Invite because it's a good starting place because all of the boys and all of the girls actually ran together in different waves. And so like all of Coconino High School ran together at Hopi, and just to see like they're running against time. So they don't know who's in front of them, behind them. So it's just a good preseason kind of race. And just to go out to Hopi was nice.
Yeah, and I know, did you guys get an opportunity last season to do any of those sort of small invitationals where, you got to do kind of what you did at Hopi, which is just get an opportunity to see how your team does to start off the season?
We did a Chino multi-meet. So we did some small dual meets, but our season at the beginning of last year, like we had one meet canceled and then another meet canceled and another meet canceled. And so it was all because of COVID. One team would test positive, and then, it just wasn't happening. Then our school board decided not to let us do sports. And so it's just like a lot of ups and downs. So it's just nice to have two meets under our belt right now.
And those early meets and those invitationals, I know other sports also participate in those as well. I want to just ask you kind of briefly, how important is it to have those invitationals and those invites and those sort of mid-season, there's some teams you might meet up in state. Obviously, some teams are not in the same division as you. They're just coming for the invitational. But, how important are those sort of, like I said, mid-season tournaments, mid-season invitationals? How important is it for just the season going forward for your program?
It's really important because we have such depth on both the boys and the girls squad that nobody has solidified their top 7 on the boys or the girls team. So, we have really good depth, especially on the girls side. Like we have 10 to 11 girls that could easily run for us on varsity. So having the opportunity to get the early races in September against our competition, against other D3 schools is really important. And, I have a really young squad this year. So last year, they were in 8th grade, and so they didn't get to compete. So as incoming freshmen, they're new to the sport. They're new to running a 5K. And so just getting that experience and that confidence in them is really important.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, like you just said, you're welcoming in a new crop of runners. How do you approach a new runner to the sport?
We actually start in June. So we do a lot of summer training. This past summer, we met 3 times a week. And so it's just building that base, building the relationships, and just seeing where they're at and letting them know that they're capable of doing anything and everything with cross country. I mean, we have runners that have never run before. We have runners that have been running since they were 4 or 5 years old. So, I mean, it runs the whole gamut. And at the end of the summer, we actually did a team camp up at Camp Colton here in Flagstaff. And so we took 20 plus athletes up there, I think almost 30 kids. And we spent 3 days, 2 nights, just going on some beautiful runs and team building, talking about things that we can't necessarily have time to in the season. So it was just a lot of just coming together as a squad.
Yeah, and so like you mentioned, some good team building, get some chemistry built for the team. Of course, cross country, while there is a team aspect to it, there's also more of an individual aspect as well, because you're going off of individual finish times. But of course, and I've talked with multiple cross country coaches before about sort of the camaraderie that does come with individual sports like cross country, like a swim, where you are looking at the individual performances. But at the end of the day, of course, you guys are all one team. You're all Panthers. You're just competing in different facets, of course. Coach, the team also participated earlier this month, the Peaks Invitational. We talked a little bit about that. How did that go?
It went really well. We ran, so at Peaks, there's 2 different varsity categories. So we competed in the ascent rather than the summit. And our boys finished 5th overall with Aiden Scott and Ryan Quintero getting medals. And as far as our girls won with Wheaton Smith finishing first and getting, I think, a PR of like a minute off of that course. So it was huge gains for Wheaton. Yeah, so I was very proud of what they were able to accomplish.
Has anybody, how are your newcomers, Coach? We just talked about this new crop of freshmen that have come in. I mean, anybody really kind of get your attention early on, or how you liking their development so far?
Well, we have some young, like Wheaton, Zoe and Sophia are juniors, and then Acacia and Rihanna are seniors. And then we have a couple of sophomores that ran for me last year. And just to see the growth from freshman year to now is really encouraging. And I have one new freshman, actually a couple of new freshmen. They're young. They're just trying to get more experience. But I have one, her name is Mary. And she's from Flagstaff. And so just to see where she's at fitting with this squad is really encouraging to see where they're at. And then my boys, because I also coach track and field, I'm the head track coach. So I had a lot of track athletes come out for cross country. And so we're trying to convert some of the sprinters, mid-distance kids to be a cross country runners. So we've had some track athletes come on over for cross country, especially on the boy side. We had Nick Wolf, who's now our number 3 boy. And he was originally just a sprinter and a jumper. And now he's our number 3 boy, which is huge gains for him.
Yeah, and of course, it helps you out as well, because not only are you continuing the season with cross country, but then you can go, hey, we also have track and field if you want to go ahead and participate in that. I know, obviously a lot of schools, you have dual sport athletes, you have kids who play one sport. I know cross country is one of those sports where you do get, I believe, a little bit more of the commitment there, where kids are really running throughout the year. I know you do have a few dual sport athletes. Of course, you just mentioned one. I want to ask a little bit more, kind of jumping off of that. Recruitment. I know that obviously you're not doing any kind of recruiting. You're not going and doing recruiting. I'm using the wrong term here, but I would say a gaining interest in your program. How do you go about that? Obviously year in and year out, you're getting kids who graduate. You just talked about a new fresh group of freshmen coming in. I know that you just mentioned trying to recruit again, in a different context of recruit, of course, where you're trying to get kids to participate in track and field and also cross country. How do you kind of gain that interest in your program?
Thank you. So as Coconino High School, we usually have like a club and a sports day where freshmen and newcomers to Coco can sign up. And so once I get that contact sheet, I start just contacting the athletes, sending them emails, putting up flyers around school. And then a lot of it is, we're such a small community too, that, we have sisters and brothers, like their siblings are joining the team, they're younger. And so it's very much like a family that kind of joins the team.
I have noticed that a lot. There's a lot of crossover when it comes to families. I mean, calling sports over at Mingus Union, there's obviously, a couple of this family last name, a couple of this family's last name. Same thing with Flagstaff and Cocoa. But what I find really interesting about, I guess I want to say Northern Arizona in general, is you do get a lot of coaches returning to the schools they attended. You are a Coconino Panther. You participated at Coconino High School. You started out as an assistant in 2015, take over the job in 2017. So even yourself, you're sort of almost recruiting new coaches in a way as well, because who knows, maybe down the line, one of these kids gets an opportunity to coach at the school. Hopefully not in your job, coach, but hopefully it's because you retired. But I mean, seriously, you could be attracting a new crop of coaches as well to the program along with players.
Yeah, definitely. Well, my dad actually was my cross-country coach here at Coconino High School. My dad graduated from Coconino, I believe, in 71 or 72, and he coached for over 20 years at Coconino High School, and he's my assistant coach. My son, who graduated in 2019, is also my assistant coach.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
And even more to your point about the families, your dad was a coach. You're now a coach. Your son is also coaching. I'm sure if he ends up having kids, if he doesn't already, they may end up coaching as well. Probably at Coconino High School, because it seems like there's a nice little track there for Coach Shannon Taylor, of course, the Coconino High School cross country coach. The Panthers have participated in 2 meets so far. They've got another one coming up on September 11th, which you can definitely go check out at Chinley High School. I'll talk to Coach about that in a little bit. But Coach, I want to talk about some of those returners you have. Big crop of returners and state qualifiers on the girls' side. Catherine Donaldson is one, Wheaton Smith, Zoe Sather, and the list goes on and on. How are you going to continue their development? They're all juniors now. What are you doing to make sure that you can prepare them now for state coming up this year?
We actually had Catherine Donaldson move. So she moved kind of just right at the beginning of the school year. So just trying to fill the hole that she left. She was very much a part of being the team leader and helping the squad. But these girls have been running for me since their freshman year. So I've definitely know where to push them a little bit more, what works for them, what kind of workout works really well when they need hills. And so it's very much between Coach Kozowski, Coach Taylor, and Coach, myself, like working together to find out what these kids need right then and there, and hitting those marks later on in the season when we're starting to do like 400, 200 repeats. So I'm getting them ready for it.
Like you said, Coach, let's dive a little bit more into that training and preparation. I mean, now the season's kicked off. You've seen multiple teams so far. You've had 2 meets. You're getting ready for another one this weekend. I want to ask, how does your training and preparation change throughout the season, especially now, considering you've got 2 meets under your belt?
Yeah. So right now, we're moving on to like more of the hills. Just trying to get the fast, quick turnover, and I'm just trying to polish their running and just getting into the mindset of racing, because all summer we were just trying to build base, get the mileage in, those long runs, and cutting back a little bit on the mileage and just doing a little bit more intensive workouts right now. And then, once sectionals and state, pulling back on the miles big time so we can get ready for our state meet.
Practicing for uphill, Coach, is there a lot of incline when it comes to cross country?
Yeah, there's as far as like the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. So we live right at the base of Buffalo Park. And so wherever you go from Coconino High School, you're running uphill pretty much. And so we have trails and just hills galore. So it's just a matter of picking which hill, how hard of a hill do we want to run today?
Of course. Beautiful Flagstaff and Coconino area, of course, Coconino County, I should say. Again, we were speaking with Coconino High School cross-country coach Shannon Taylor. How interesting. I did not even factor that in, that you are running uphill a lot when you get up into the Flagstaff area. But let's talk a little bit more about that Flagstaff area. I got a chance to speak with a couple of the coaches, not only within the division, but also within the area, of course. Flagstaff's got a great cross-country program. Coconino, of course, does as well. Northland Prep Academy placed very well at state qualifiers last year. Basis Flagstaff, just smaller school, also performed very, very well in cross country. Coconino Community College is adding cross country to their program. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Coach, I want to ask you, you've been in the Flagstaff area for a very long time. You're a Coconino Panther. Your dad was your former coach. You participated in cross country. I want to ask you about the culture of running up there. I know a lot of people love that high terrain, high terrain training, higher altitude training, of course, in Flagstaff. So the running culture there is massive. But I want to ask you just a little bit about, your thoughts on the running culture up in Flagstaff. And also, do you have any kind of collaboration with any of those other programs that you compete against up in the same area? Do you get a chance to talk with any of those coaches in the off season, get a chance to look at any of those programs, maybe some things you've taken away that you want to utilize for your program? But just kind of in general, Coach, what can you say to the running culture in the Flagstaff area?
My dad always said that Flagstaff's this hidden gem that nobody knew about until, maybe a decade ago. And he's like, people don't realize how blessed we are to be at 7,000 feet and, to train here day in, day out. It might be hard to breathe, but once we get down to Phoenix, it's like we're flying. Yeah. And, just to see the explosion of runners and international athletes coming here to train, Olympians. I always try to bring in them when they're coming to use our track. I'm like, hey, do you want to say a couple of words to my athletes? And so we've had quite a few guest speakers come to talk to the kids. And that's the beauty of Flagstaff. We have so many different athletes coming and encouraging one another and, working with Flag High and MPA and Basis, we all get along, all four of us high schools, even though we're at all different levels, we are there to help each other out and to encourage each other. And, we see each other at meets, we talk and, it's very much a camaraderie and, we always want the best for each other.
Coach, of course, and it's interesting. You talk about training at 7,000 feet. I remember where I grew up in Southern California, we played against Big Bear High School, who was also up in the northern part of Southern California. And whenever we had to play against them, I played basketball and baseball. Whenever we had to play at Big Bear High School, it was always a nightmare because the air is so thin and all those kids could play 4 quarters, no problem of basketball. But whenever we got up there, I needed a sub after 10 minutes of playing up and down the floor. But yes, a very big advantage. And your dad is right. It's very much a hidden gem for a lot of different reasons. And one of which being, of course, that high altitude training, like you said, Coach, a lot of Olympians like to come train here. A lot of obviously your programs are training up there. And you guys really do have such a high competitive advantage when you do go down into Phoenix and the air is a little bit more, vast and it's a lot easier to breathe because you guys have already got that training. So you can go a lot longer than they can. And you, Flagstaff, NPA, Basis Flagstaff, any of the other surrounding schools that have cross-country programs in that high altitude area are really at a big advantage. But I want to ask you really quick, Coach, 2 questions before we let you go. First and foremost, like I said, Coconino Community College is adding cross-country. What does that mean for the future of these kids when they leave Coconino High School?
It's another opportunity. I was able to meet with the coach last couple months ago, and he was just like, if you know of any seniors that are coming on, it's right here. And I really encourage my athletes, if you kind of don't know what you want to do, if you want to just go to academic route, or if you want to maybe go to CCC, they have a great program. But I think having that opportunity here, and then if they do well enough at CCC, maybe walking on to a D2, D1 school, and NAU, yeah. Yep, it's right there. It's possible.
Yes, and it just, obviously extends the life of these kids getting an opportunity to compete. Like you said, they just get another opportunity to continue to participate in cross country and not really have to go too far away to do so. And they're used to the altitude already, so they've got a benefit there. Coach, like I mentioned, you've got a meet coming up on September 11th at Chinley High School. How are you preparing the team? What are you expecting in that meet?
Really good competition. We've actually run against quite a few of those schools at the Peaks meet and Hopi Invite. And I really like to go out to the reservation to see where they're training and to run at Canyon de Chelly Invite. We actually get to go through water pits and over bales of hay. So it's very like a cross country, obstacle course. And the kids are having so much fun. And just to let the kids experience what the reservation schools would have to do to come to a meet. And they have amazing talent out there.
Bales of hay and a water pit. You guys got a snake pit you got to jump over as well. just to get the terrain. How interesting. Always learning so much whenever I speak with a cross-country coach, and this is one of the best ones here in the Division III. I was almost going to say the Grand Canyon region, but here in Division III, great running culture up in Flagstaff. Flagstaff High School, of course, Northland Prep, base is Flagstaff, and Shannon Taylor of Coconino High School, all putting together a great community of running up in the Flagstaff area. But Coach, I want to thank you very much for taking the time. Best of luck in the meet this weekend. Again, that is September 11th at Chinley High School, if you want to check that out. Coach Shannon Taylor, best of luck with your Coconino Panthers. I look forward to speaking with you again, hopefully very soon.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too, Coach. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Mingus Union High School swim coach, Gretchen Wesbrock, on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Gettles High Desert Mechanical and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I'm joined now by a familiar face of the program. She is Mingus Union High School swim coach, Gretchen Wesbrock. Coach Wesbrock, welcome back onto the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always love being here.
Always happy to have you, Coach. Congratulations on the start of the season. We talked a little bit in the off season before we got the year started, but now the swim season for everybody in the Division III has been kicked off. So we've got a couple meets under our belt. Thought we'd get a chance to speak with Coach Westbrock here early on. Like I mentioned earlier this month, the Marauders were able to compete in a couple meets, one of which being against Northland Prep and Apache Junction to start off the year. How'd the team perform, Coach?
Well, they did fantastic. We have a really deep roster, over 40 plus swimmers on the team. And Apache Junction, we had not competed against as far as a dual meet in my time of coaching. What's interesting is my husband and I actually met at the Apache Junction pool as lifeguards. So it was super fun to have that team up here, but a smaller team for sure. And then Northland Prep, we've competed against for years now. We're there as well. Our team did phenomenal, really dominated, both because of size, but if you were to look at the results, really, they had a lot of 1-2 finishes or 1-3 or 2-3 finishes. So had we gone head to head, I think it numbers wise, I think we would have still come out with a win, which was a really great way to kick off the season, especially since we're coming out of a season where we had virtual meets. So awesome to actually see other swimmers walking on our deck, repping their colors, all excited to be hosting teams. It was great.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I completely forgot that, of course, last year, a lot of the meets were virtual because of COVID-19. And so it is great to get some, like you said, to get some more people around the pool, some more people competing in the same pool at the same time on the same date, which is always great. But I want to talk a little bit more about the competition that you saw. Like you said, you are familiar with the Apache pool, but did not get a chance to play against Apache Junction since you've taken over. This is the first time. And of course, Northland Prep Academy, you were very familiar with. You got a chance to play against both of them this past week. I just want to ask, you kind of talked about it a little bit. Obviously, Apache and Northland Prep did win a couple events. Mingus didn't sweep the whole meet. There were a few wins, of course, on the side of both of those schools. But, Northland Prep Academy and Apache Junction High School, both smaller schools in Flagstaff, and wonderful programs amongst them. And I was just curious if you can just give us a little bit more about what you saw on their end. Of course, you might get a chance to see them in the playoffs, of course, but let's just talk a little bit more about the competition your team saw.
Absolutely. So I would say they great teams, great sportsmanship, definitely some superstars on their team. You can tell that there's going to be a few that will make it to state. Just really impressed with, again, it's just this swim is a sport where you really do see great sportsmanship, mainly because, and I say it to my athletes a lot, like, there's no need to talk smack on the deck, because once you get on that block, like, it's going to be embarrassing if you don't beat them. So just prove it in the pool, do the work there. And we saw that. So again, both teams, great teams. I know, again, size wise, we were, twice as large as Apache Junction, and even larger than MPA, but they traditionally have great programs. Apache Junction school size wise, very similar to Mingus. And MPA much smaller. So not as much depth, but some great athletes that I know we'll see at some qualifiers, and certainly we'll see some of those swimmers at state.
Well, I like you said, two great programs. Of course, now I'm kicking myself a little bit because I said they're similar in schools, but of course, Apache Junction more closer in population size to Mingus, so closer to your 4A school, and of course, Northland Prep Academy competing in 2A and other sports, Division III for swim. But what a great opportunity for you to get to see the competition early on. Obviously, this isn't like football where you're kind of seeing them every week. Your meets change. You do run into a couple teams every now and then, but really, this is preparation for the state competition. This is you getting an opportunity to see what Northland Prep Academy has, what Apache Junction High School has, and then of course down the line when you guys get a chance to go down to Kingman and a few of the other schools that are within the division that you play against, you'll just get more and more insight as to who you'll be playing. But speaking more about that meet, like we mentioned, Mingus finished first in multiple events during this swim meet, one of which being the girls and boys 200-yard medley relay. I'm terrible at words, but separately, of course, the girls won their event and the boys won their event in 200 in the relay. But Coach, I want to ask, how you build that rapport and the chemistry between your relay swimmers throughout the year, or even before the start of the year?
What's really interesting, especially on the girls' side, we had a swimmer that was unable to compete. And so the relay that had been practicing together was suddenly interrupted a few days before that meet. And what I think is really a testament to this team is people can step up and step in, and that positive, you used the word chemistry, just that positive rapport. They train together as a full team. We don't look at them as having varsity swimmers and JV swimmers, or here's where the freshmen, here's where the juniors and seniors, they're all training together as a team. And I think they very much see themselves that way. And so on the relays, I feel like I can interchange, and sometimes do. In fact, as we go into dual meets each week, usually the day before, I will time trial them just to see what they can do. And sometimes that'll impact the lineup I do for relays the next day. We're in a position where we can do that. When I first started and the team was smaller, it was a little more difficult. You kind of were like, nope, you're locked in. You're the butterflyer on that relay. And now we've got a lot of really awesome competition within the team that's just elevating all of them to want to work harder in practice, to be more competitive. And that's going to benefit them when they are going up against other teams, but also up against the clock. They're constantly pushing one another. So I feel like on our relay teams across the board, with the medley, with the 4x50, the 4x100, I've got so many options. And I think that's really phenomenal, especially in a season where you don't know what's going to happen, with COVID being a real thing, quarantine still being a real thing, that they all know that they might have to step up. And when they do, they're ready to go.
Yeah, and of course, like you just said, if there are COVID issues, or even if there are academic issues or any other issues that pop up, the ability to be able to switch kids in and out with that relay team is a good problem to have, of course. I mean, when you've got, in a lot of ways, sometimes too many cooks in the kitchen is a good thing, and especially when you're talking about Mingus swim, because like Coach Westbrock just said, when you have one player who can just kind of interchange with another relay team, you basically have 5 or 6 different options of relay combinations that you can go with. And it provides a benefit for Mingus Union because, well, Coach, you can utilize that as strategy just elsewhere. If you had to switch somebody in and then switch them out later in the season, if they're swimming better, you can put them in.
That's right. Absolutely. It's a great situation to be in for sure.
Let's talk a little bit more about those swimmers directly. Of course, Jade Bach, a part of that relay team, she swam great. Wynton Armstrong also swam great. Addison Hughes, Sean Hogard on the boys' side, Taylor Lennon, all performed well at the meet. And there's a bunch of other names that I did not write down or mention as well. But the Marauders really showed out this year. I just want to ask a little bit, who else are some of those names that I may have not mentioned who performed well? Did anybody surprise you? Any newcomers perform well during that first 2 meet?
Yeah, we have such a solid group. I had a couple seniors that weren't able to compete, but they're going to be ones to watch out for with Brooke Peterson, Carter Gordon. Landon Treesice had a phenomenal meet. He's another one of our seniors. You mentioned a few with Sean Hogard. Hunter Kogel's another one on the boys' side that we're going to watch out for. Jackson Moore, Jack Zahudanis. I mean, there's just a ton of depth. I think we've got a good number of new freshmen on the boys and girls side, which is always really exciting to see. Wynton Armstrong is a natural and a hard worker. So I'm excited. He comes from the world of running. He only started swimming competitively about a year ago. And fast learner, I had him on the blocks. We were doing something and we were talking about Caleb Dressel and Olympic event and talking about his start and, gave him a little piece of feedback and he can translate that into the pool so quickly. And that's not the case with all athletes. I certainly wasn't that way. It took me much longer sometimes to learn things. So that's going to be exciting there. On the girls' side, you mentioned, Taylor Lennon's a senior, Jade Bach, phenomenal swimmer. There are plenty of others. You talked about freshman Addie Hughes. That was actually the most exciting race of that meet with Apache Junction and MPA was Addie in the 500. So 500 longest distance in high school swim, 20 links of the pool. And Addie was against an Apache Junction swimmer that was ahead of her by about about 2 body lengths most of the way. But into the last 100, she was keeping up, and into the last 100, something clicked in Addie's brain, and she just realized, I can beat this girl. And she did. I mean, it came right down to the finish, which you don't see happen in those longer distance races. You see that more in your 50, 100, where it really comes down to those touches. It was so much fun and really set the tone for the rest of the meet, but also I think for the season she wasn't one that anybody would have necessarily said, oh, let's watch this race, this 500, this exciting event. And yet she turned it into the crowd was roaring. The teams were excited. It was really a blast. Allie Kozowski is another, she's a junior. She's going to be one. I think we're going to see her headed to state this year, especially if she's training the way she is. Addie Parker. There are so many. So if I didn't say your name, you know who you are. I mean, there's just great depth on this team.
And a lot of crossover as well. I mean, obviously at every high school, you mostly have 2-sport athletes, but Jade Bach also plays girls basketball for Mingus Union. Hunter Cogill is also a baseball player for Mingus Union. So it's also nice to see that crossover. You mentioned, I believe it was Wynton, who was a former runner who is now a swimmer. So a lot of crossover here with the swim team.
Absolutely. And I love that. There's a lot of multi-sport athletes. In fact, Hunter Cogill, who you talked about, great varsity baseball player's brother as well, Ethan Cogill. And they love the benefits of swim and see that translate. And then talking to Coach Casada, he sees that translation too in regards to their endurance, their flexibility. Just swim works a whole different set of body parts, and they can certainly positively impact other sports. So love our multi-sport athletes. We have a lot of swimmers that also will do track. So that seems to be kind of a natural correlation, and it's awesome keeping them active all year long. We don't have pool access all year long, so it's not in our community. So it's not as if our swimmers can necessarily be doing USA Swim year round here. So want them doing something that keeps them conditioned.
Again, we were speaking with Mingus Union High School swim coach Gretchen Westbrock. Coach, let's talk about your preparation and training throughout the year. How do you adjust that throughout the season?
Well, what's fortunate about this season is we did get a full summer season with the Cottonwood Clippers, not a requirement to be a part of that team, to be a part of Mingus. In fact, we have a lot of brand new swimmers that showed up on our roster that was exciting that hadn't been a part of a summer swim program. But that certainly was helpful for a lot of our team to have that full summer to be able to practice. It gets real though once high school starts, as far as just the level of I think commitment on the part of the swimmers. They have far more competitions during the high school season, and it's not just about the win in one meet. It's really about those time drops, and they're able to see on from the beginning of the season, what is it going to take for me to get close to that provisional or hit that provisional or that automatic. For swimmers who that's not the goal necessarily because they're not quite there, it really is about that improvement. We did time trials the very first week of swim, and the time drops at our meets have been phenomenal. I mean, and so I think that's really encouraging for swimmers to, regardless of where they place on the wall, to see their own improvements. One of the things I love about swim is it really is about, are you getting better? And we're seeing that everywhere, all across the board, all of our swimmers in all the events. It's phenomenal.
Just kind of real quick, Coach, I don't know if you got one off the top of your head, but is there anybody who really had a significant time change from when they first did the time trial? It can be really any time. It doesn't have to be this year. It could be last season, 5 years ago, whatever. But it really, is there anything that kind of anybody who pops out who was like, oh, they had this time to start the year, and then at the end of the year, it was like how, a minute less or 45 seconds less or 20 to 30 seconds. You got any stories of anybody really changing their time at the end?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can think of a couple right now. I've got some younger siblings of former Mingus swimmers that I coach. It was super fun. So, Luke Fangman from freshman year to junior year. Phenomenal time drops. Jackson Moore is another one who came on the team as a freshman and had never had any sort of formal swim. He hadn't been a part of a team of any sort with swim. And he did the 200 in the Apache Junction MPA meet. I put him in the 200 freestyle, and his split was close to under a minute. So, things that it just would have never, they're surprising themselves, right, which is really, really fun to see. So went from a brand new swimmer to now both of them swimmers. Luke had been swimming a long time, but both of them swimmers that are leaders now on the team and juniors that will certainly be senior leaders next year.
Coach, I got two questions before I let you go. Again, if you're just joining us, we are speaking with Mingus Union High School swim coach Gretchen Westbrock. Coach, the competition and the culture in Northern Arizona, just in general. I know you've been a fixture in the swim culture here in the Verde Valley for a very long time. So you've gotten a chance to see a lot of these programs sort of change and adjust over the years. I know Sedona's got a great swim program. Obviously, Mingus does. Prescott, Flagstaff, NPA, Apache Junction. The list goes on of all these programs here in Northern Arizona that are really making some huge strides in swim. And Coach, I just want to ask just kind of your thoughts on the ever-changing culture. What have you noticed throughout the years? Who's really kind of surprised you a little bit as becoming more of a formidable opponent, or as just kind of seeing this program grow from so little to a lot larger? I'm just curious if you can speak to just kind of the culture of swim in Northern Arizona.
I feel really fortunate. I grew up in the Valley, so was very familiar with the culture of swim in a larger metropolitan area. Coming to this area has been really special. I think there's just a lot of support across programs for athletes to do well. I think when even in our division as a Division III team, you go up against some of these schools. If you go to Division III state, you're seeing a lot of private schools, schools that have the ability to recruit, schools that just have a lot more money and have athletes that maybe have had access to more training year round. And I think in Northern Arizona, Flagstaff has some great year round programs. Sedona has year round. Other parts of Northern Arizona have limitations like we do, where we don't have access to water. So I think it's exciting. We're very supportive of one another. I mean, when we're at qualifiers, we're cheering on all the teams from our area. We get excited when any of the swimmers from Northern Arizona are representing. It's fun to hear people say, like, where's Mingus? Or, what's that? We didn't know that team had anybody. That's really exciting to see, because I think over the years that I've been here, I've just seen our area receive more recognition in this sport, and we've seen athletes really be successful. And I think that's exciting for our schools. It's exciting for our communities, and it's exciting for the future of swim, because I think we've got, as we saw with the Clippers, we've got a lot of strong interest. And I know that's the case in traveling to Bullhead and seeing what's happening with Mojave, Flagstaff, all over that people are excited about the sport.
And we've seen it grow. I mean, like you said, if you look up and down Northern Arizona, there's programs everywhere. You just mentioned it: Flagstaff, Sedona, the Verde Valley, the Prescott area. I've gotten a chance to speak with some of these coaches as well. And there's a lot of passion. Like you said, there's a lot of support within the other programs. And it's great to see that the sport of swim and even cross country and a few of these other sports that aren't necessarily, the focal point. Of course, the fall, everybody's mostly looking at football, but there are a lot of other great programs here in Northern Arizona and throughout the entire state of Arizona that really get a lot of support from a program to program, like we just said. But Coach, before I ramble too much, next meet's coming up on September 16th at Kingman Academy. What are you expecting in that one, and how are you preparing the team before we let you go?
Yeah, interestingly enough, we were supposed to go up against Kingman Academy, Lee Williams, and Kingman. Kingman was not able to support a program this year with numbers, so it'll be Lee Williams and Kingman Academy. What's fun, we're traveling, so the team's excited about that, getting to be at a different pool. We haven't had a lot of opportunity to travel for dual meets over the last couple of years. What's going to be fun is some of these swimmers are swimmers that our athletes have been competing against previously through summer rec programs, certainly through high school swim. So it'll be fun to see some familiar faces, fun to be in a new location and see what the athletes do. So excited, two teams that are in our divisions. So again, it's neat to go up against teams in different divisions to see how we fare, but it's always fun to see where we're at within our division. So excited to see what's going on in Kingman.
The Marauders' next swim meet is, like I mentioned, September 16th at Kingman Academy. That is Mingus Union High School swim coach Gretchen Wesbrock. Coach Westbrock, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thanks so much for having me. We really appreciate all the support for Mingus Swim.
Of course. Best of luck on the season as well. We're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. Off the bench. We'll be right back.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Mingus Union High School Athletic Director Yancey DeVore. Yancey, welcome back onto the show.
Hey, always glad to be here, man. So it's a pleasure. So it's
happy to
been
have
a little while, but summer's over. And we're rolling with the athletics. So
Yes, we very much are. You 100% correct. I should pass off a congratulations on coordinating and helping get us through the 2020 nightmare sports season. But we're all happy that we're back on campus for the most part, with just some minor changes, and everybody's back in school. We're getting athletics going underway. But Yancey, I want to kind of just start in general. I mean, how's the school year going? I know we just kind of kicked off last month, but how are things around Mingus Union?
Hey, things are great here. It's exciting to be back on campus. There's when I was rolling up that first day of school, and I was backed up at this stop sign down here on Fur, and it's like, oh man, this almost feels normal again. And then you get into the hallways, and our enrollment's up. We're up to close to 1,350 kids, which is it's a packed house for us, but. It's really good to see the kids back in session. Athletics are rolling, and we got kids participating and back in the classroom, which is really important for those kids. So hopefully this COVID thing can kind of go away like we all want it to. But you know what? Kids are in school, they're participating, and that's a good thing. So it almost feels normal, but not quite.
Well, it's great to hear that the numbers are up at Mingus Union High School, almost 1,300 kids. That's fantastic. That's more kids participating in athletics potentially, or just participating in any other clubs that are on campus, participating in theater. Everybody knows that I have a theater background. So either way, it's just great to see more kids getting back into school. Yancey, you talk a little bit about returning back to sports this year. Welcome to some new faces, a couple new faces, and one that is not necessarily new. He's just switching over to a different program. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, first and foremost, the hiring of Dave Monsibaez as the football coach for Mingus Union High School. It is very known now that Coach Doug Provenzano is no longer with Mingus Union. Coach Monsibaez steps in 2 weeks before the start of the season. And I just want to ask a little bit, he's a former Marauder. He was a teacher there for a long time, played under Bob Young. What else attracted, or what else kind of allowed you to sort of present this opportunity to Coach Monsibaez and go, look, we think you're the guy for the job?
Yeah, well, Coach Monsibaez, he's a proven coach. He's turned programs around. We've seen it. We've seen him in the basketball arena and with cross country, and he took on golf, and he's got a lot of coaching experience. He understands how educational athletics works. And we're just really excited to bring him on board. He's got some really cool things he wants to do with that program, and we're gonna see a game changer with Dave Monsibaez at the helm of that program. And I'm excited for the hire. There's some rumblings going on out there, and the dust is starting to settle a little bit. But you know what? It's the program's going in the right direction. And sometimes it's hard to see in the storm, but you know what? It's you stick around, and Monsibaez is going to be the guy that's going to weather that storm. So we're excited to have him at the helm, and he's working with those coaches that were there, and that's one of those things that got kind of overlooked in this shakeup as well. We kept the core of the coaches here, the guys that have been keeping the wheels on the bus and out there with the kids, and they didn't get a whole lot of recognition or attention through all this because it's such a public position, the head football coach. But we have some soldiers up on that field that have been busting their tails for those kids all summer, and they're still there. And they're part of that program, and Dave is working with those guys on getting this steered in the right direction, and it's going to happen. Dave Monsibaez will get this program where we want it to be, and we believe that, and we have faith in him to take over that program. So we're really excited for that, and it's going to look different, but he's the guy.
Yeah, well, he's going to have to be the guy. I mean, he comes in, like you said, with a lot of experience. He's been a part of multiple programs here at Mingus Union High School. Obviously, any head coaching job anywhere for any position is going to have some sort of target on their back, maybe a little bit bigger target at Mingus Union just because there's so many passionate Marauder fans in the Verde Valley. But we're all excited about what Coach Monsibaez brings. There is a great supporting cast, Coach Anguiano, Coach JR, Coach Rob Harrison, guys who have been there for a very long time. I know, Yancey, you're on the sidelines all the time. We got Fire Chief Ron Sottman is helping out. I mean, there's just a plethora of guys who have been there, and they're helping Coach Monsiváis steer that ship. And we're excited to see what Coach Monsiváis brings. Like I mentioned, he is a former Marauder and played under Bob Young. So it's very, very, very exciting. Couple other hires as well. Darren Beck comes in, a very brand new coach to a coach at Mingus Union High School. Got her first ever win at the varsity level as a head coach for Mingus Union earlier, I believe last month, or at the end of last month, I should say. So congratulations to Coach Beck. We had her on the show when she in the summertime when she was just getting started over at Mingus Union High School. But along with Coach Beck, you welcome over Coach Mike Medore. He was helping out with the girls golf program last year. I believe he's taking over the boys program with Coach not Coach Kapka. He's the Bradshaw coach, but Coach Mai. Coach Mai was a former coach, of course. That's right, yeah. Coach Mai retires, but let's talk a little bit about some of those other hires. Let's start with Coach Beck. We'll go to Coach Medore, and we could talk a little generally about the other hires, but new faces, but they come with some expertise.
Oh yeah. So let's start with Coach Beck, and man, she's just a fireball out there of energy. And
I think it's the red hair, Coach.
Yeah, and she's got the program going. I mean, when we started looking at the numbers and she was doing some summer workouts, we're like, man, this is a good thing. And we still have kids that want to get into that program. And we kept the numbers higher across the board. I mean, we were getting over 50 kids at some of the tryouts and there's only 6 spots on a court, and for 3 levels of volleyball. And so that was really a good thing. So she brought some energy and she brought some organization, and she did bring some expertise to that program that's much needed. So it's a little boost in the program, and we're going to see some fruit of that labor that they've been doing, and she's going to change the face of that program. It's going to take a little bit of time, right, but she's making it her own. The kids are buying into it. If you're coming and watching our games, we have attendance going there. And I think some of the gates, because we weren't doing any gates last year for gate fees or anything like that. Right. The last game we had over a $900 gate fee. Wow. A gate for our volleyball game. And I don't know that we've ever had that since I've been here. Wow. And so the people are coming to these games, and there's a lot of energy out there. So we're just really excited for the direction that she's going to take that team, her expertise, her skills, and her experience. Even though she's pretty young, she does bring something to the table that's beneficial for these girls, and the girls are buying into it. Yeah. And that's half the battle, man. If you get the kids to go to battle for you, they'll run through a wall for you. And she's got that going for her right now. And so it's really kind of fun and cool to watch. And all 3 of those levels the girls are competing, and we're going toe to toe with some good teams. And so, we're just right at that cusp of that precipice where it's going to start bending in our favor, so we're going to see that. And I have full confidence in that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's definitely exciting. And like you said, attendance is up, which means support in the community is up as well. People are going to games again. Obviously, last year you couldn't host too many people in the state into the Marauder Gymnasium because of COVID. But now it's nice to see that more people are getting an opportunity to come see these kids compete. Like you said, Coach Beck brings a lot of experience. She's a great new hire. Also, like I mentioned, you're welcoming in some former Marauders. You got a new Spirit Line coach this year. Coach Mike Medore, like I mentioned, he's I'm not sure if he's a former Marauder, but he's been with with other programs before. Coach Monsiváis is a former Marauder. The boys soccer, or the girls soccer program welcomed in a new coach. I mean, there's a lot of Coach Barry. That's who I wanted to bring up. Coach Barry for the boys basketball team coming back to coach that program. So it's just great to see that a lot of these programs are finding potential long-term coaching solutions. And it seems like it's starting with Coach Beck for that girls volleyball program.
Yeah. And we're excited about that. And that's ultimately what we want here. We want long-term fixes with coaches that understand educational athletics And that's the direction that we want to move in. And, you mentioned Mike Medora a little bit. He's stepping into that head boys golf role. And he's a guy that brings expertise to the table that it's hard for us to find around here. And he's very connected to Mingus too. His kids have gone through here. He's currently got a son in the program. So, and he wants to be more involved and more connected. And we're actually, he's actually going to be on taking Craig my spot in the 4A conference committee too, at the AIA level too. So he's doing that. So we're really excited for that. Yeah.
Before we let you go, Yancey, I just got one last question for you. Obviously, the Mingus Union football field is currently under renovation. The field is getting updated. We added a new scoreboard. We talked a little bit about some of the exciting updates that were going to be coming this year to the campus. I just want to get a little bit of an update. Marauders they have a home game coming up very soon. Potentially might be played at a different area. So I just kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to just give us an update on what the field is like. We just got a couple minutes here and where we could see the Marauders play just for a short time.
Okay. Yeah. Good question. So right now we got a crew out there right now working on it, and the field process, we got to get some trimming done around the edges that fastens the turf to the track. But we're probably 3 weeks out, and I say that with leaving that open ended, because a lot of the supply lines and all that other stuff are completely and totally beyond our control. Labor it's because the ball's in Shaw's court right now. The field's available to work on. The turf is getting dropped off today at actually 12 o'clock today. The trucks are rolling in with our new turf, and the pad's already out there, and we just have to get the construction rolling on it. They're leveling it. I was just out there a few minutes ago. So in the interim, and the real downside is for these, especially these seniors, they don't get their home kickoff game on our field.
Right.
And you know what? I want Zach Harrison. I want those guys out there on their home field playing football, but we're just not in that boat right now. And we took action to make a safe playing field for the next, 10 to 30 years at Mingus with the field that we're putting in here. So that's where we're at, and that's what we have to deal with. But it does hurt to not be able to put the seniors out there for a home kickoff game. So some of the other options that we're looking at is relocating some of those games to away games until we can get our field done. We're not going to move on our field prematurely, so we're going to make sure that it's done right and done safe before we step foot on that field anyway. And if we have to shuffle some games around, Camp Verde has been very gracious. Dan Wall and Mark Showers down there opening up their doors to us to allow us to play some games down there if we need. Hopefully next week's flag game will be at Flagstaff. So yeah, I just am really excited with the new turf coming in. It's going to be a dynamite field for this community and the Verde Valley. And so I'm just excited for the completion of it. We're weathering the storm right now, but it's like, we'll appreciate it when it's done. I just hope these seniors get as many games as we can on that field,
Of course. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. I'd like to thank Coconino High School cross country coach Shannon Taylor, Mingus Union High School swim coach Gretchen Wesbrock, and of course, Mingus Union High School athletic director Yancey DeVore. Yancey, thank you very much for giving us an update on the field. Thank you very much for coming on the show to talk about Mingus Union High School. I know you bleed that Marauder red, and I appreciate you coming on and talking about the school.
No, hey, look, excited for this year, man. We're gonna have some fun this year. We're excited.
That's going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I'm your host, Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you again next time.